还得录啊，我会录，会给他定出来。Hey guys, we'll get started. So first, thank you all for today. So this is MLI UVA's career panel/workshop. So, first I want to introduce our panelists. So I first want to introduce James A. He reached out to me in September, and so he's a senior software engineer for 5 years now. And again, without him, this event would not have been possible. So I just want to introduce well, he's technical staff lead at HackerOne, and yeah, sorry, technical staff lead at HackerOne. He's also been there for over 5 years. And then finally, Nancy Dong, who's the senior marketing data analyst at Veeva Systems. He's been there for over 3 years. So again, today we're going to kind of have a town hall style discussions. So all of you, when you RSVP, submit questions. So I'll kind of be presenting these questions to the moderator for the first 20 minutes. And then later on, for the last 30 to 40 minutes, we'll kind of break off and have like group/individualized one-on-ones with okay, without further ado, we'll get started. Again, if you do want to like watch back on this recording, we will be posting this to our YouTube channel and to our website, which is here, uva.org. So yeah, let's get started. No, I'm good. Thank you. Okay. So, first question. One of the things that we saw kind of the most in our RSVP form was kind of the effect of Gen AI. So how would you say Gen AI has changed the way you work? More specifically, would you say AI is replacing or doing much of the work that was previously done by engineers or like technical workers? And if so, what skills would you suggest like we as college students develop to succeed in today's tech industry?
I can take this one first. I don't think that it's replaced engineers or what I do as an engineer, but it's definitely changed how I work. As a senior engineer, I lead a team of 4 other engineers. And what I found is AI today is already good enough to be a junior engineer, like someone that's like a year or 2 out of college, got a bit of experience, someone that I can give a design doc or a CS problem and have them go and actually start making the pull requests to go and make that CS problem into a CS solution. So what I've found Gen AI actually doing with my work is that I'll actually go and have a couple of design docs that I know people on the team would get to, but that we have higher priority things or some problems that we need some people to go and investigate. And I'll actually go and take the finished design doc and give it to the AI and have it code it and actually send me a series of pull requests to review. Or I'll go and actually have it do some investigation, try to make the design doc with the expectation that it's going to be like a junior engineer. It's going to go in the wrong direction. I'm going to need to correct it. At the end of the day, I've basically got the mental capacity to have an extra 2 junior engineers on my team, which is pretty handy.
Sure, I can go next. Yeah, so sorry, it was like 10 questions in one, so I'll try to answer all of them. So at our company, so HackerOne's like a startup, like Series F startup. It's changed a lot in terms of the fact that our whole company wants to adopt AI. So there's a huge appetite for it. For me personally, within our engineering org and our data org, pretty much we've implemented it in a whole wide variety of use cases. So everything from reviewing our MRs to writing our MRs and giving access to all of our architecture. And so it can do things such as kind of what James is alluding to, write simple solutions for pull requests. And actually pretty good at also reviewing different design docs. One thing that I've noted is that it doesn't replace people, but what it does is if you are really good, like a 10x engineer, it'll only accelerate what you can do. But if you are not so good, it might create some slop that people have to kind of figure out and work around and fix. So I would say that it is like a lot of other things, a tool to accelerate what you might already be doing. So yeah.
Hello, this okay, yeah. I think for me, at least in the data field, good news to you guys, it has not really replaced at least the things that I've been doing and the things that the junior analysts that we've hired are doing. My role pertains more to accepting client requests and reporting back analytics, and that is something that AI has not yet been able to replicate. There are some things that over the years that automation that we do that are being replaced, but I think if you're in a team that's robust enough that you're not just working on that, but there's multiple things that you're doing, then yeah, has not yet replaced that.
Thank you. So that transitions into our next question. So how do you expect the job market for entry-level engineers or analysts to change over the next 5 or so years?
Good question. I think, and this is just like what she said. Obviously, the industry is huge. I think what you'll find is that the fundamentals of, like, for example, data science won't change. You still need that, but you might see the skill set for these entry-level jobs changing, in the sense that, for example, if you take a CS major, like the knowledge to know how to code really well might decrease, or the emphasis on that might decrease. But the skills that might be much more valued might be the ability to, like, critically think, like translate business, like, use cases into actual usable, like, code, like business requirements into usable code. The ability to like converse with people who are not technical. And so you might see a rise in some of these soft skills, as well as the rise in being able to prompt and get what you want out of AI. So, yeah.
I think one thing that's reassuring is that I actually had an interview where I was interviewing for an early career engineer. That's actually really unusual for me because at Google for the past year, I've only been interviewing for either senior engineers or mid-level. So hopefully it's encouraging for you guys. Starting to see that we're actually interviewing and hiring for the early career engineers again.
Small point, it won't, I think at least within my field, it won't change for the next 3 years. That's how what will happen after that. Pretty stable for now.
So regarding recruiting, so a lot of students this day and age find that getting that first interview is the hardest part of a job application cycle. So what advice would you have in terms of standing out, doing something different at that stage?
You're talking about before having an interview, just in that process.
Yeah, so I guess if you could answer that for tips and then different for kind of technical analysts.
Yeah, I can go first. I think one of the biggest things actually is being able to really tell a story that makes a recruiter pause so that they don't just skip over your resume. There's actually a really funny one. One of the mentees recently, he was trying to figure out what to do with his resume. He was in this position where he's had an internship before, but he hasn't been able to get any interviews this year. And as I'm looking at his resume, I didn't really say anything special. I asked him, what's the thing that you're most proud of? And he says, well, it's my last internship. I went and made this JavaScript application using Leaflet and these other libraries, and it went and created a map. I was like, okay, I guess that's kind of interesting. So I started asking him questions like, so why were you proud of it? What exactly did it do anyway? And I find out that actually what happened was he was working for a concrete plant that you guys probably don't know the name of, but is responsible for most of the concrete plants around America, including most of the ones that are building the data centers here in Virginia, especially in Nova. And all this time, every time they make a new concrete plant, they go and have some guys literally go on Google Maps, look at where the nearby concrete plants are, look at where the projects are, and then go and try to figure out by hand, okay, what is the size of that plant? Where is the project? Would it make sense for us to go and create a competitor plant nearby? And they're all doing this on Google Maps. They've got entire teams of people doing this. And he went and made an application to automate all of this. And when I heard that, I'm like, wait, you mean that as an intern? And they're actually using it? Why didn't you say that on your resume? So one of the biggest things is there are a lot of applications that are out there. One thing that's interesting is that the average resume gets looked at for about 7 seconds before recruiters make a decision. You're going to need to stand out in those 7 seconds. So it's really about the story that you're able to pitch when they're doing that initial skim.
Yeah, I think I would echo James's point. I think a lot of resumes that I read, and not just new grads, actually, my company's doing a bunch of hiring for even senior level guys, and it kind of reads like kind of an academic paper of like, oh, I did this, I did this, I did this. But if you put yourself in the shoes of the recruiter who probably isn't technical, is trying to figure out as he reads, spend 7 seconds on your resume, can I see this person do the job, right? And oftentimes, what I find is that there is that disconnect because you don't write your resume in such a way that the recruiter can then see that. And that's why perhaps you're not getting the responses that you would like. So that's like something like I've noted. I also think what might be helpful too in this world where it's so easy to apply to a lot of different things might be also utilizing your referral network. I think referrals are actually extremely helpful, particularly if you know the people, and they can give you some sort of actual like referral, not based off like, oh, he co-contacted me, but oh, because I know this guy and can vouch for him. So those are two of the things that might be helpful to get that first.
So that kind of transitions to our next question. So one thing that a lot of college students try to do is try to get those referrals. So how would you recommend reaching out to a recruiter or at a company of interest, assuming you don't know them, without appearing weird or awkward?
Good luck. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of tricky. To be honest, I don't have a good answer. In my experience, when people have reached, so to give you a little insight into the process, right? Like, I've had people message me on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, this is a job in your company, can you refer me?" And then I go to my referral portal, and they'll say, "How do you know this person? What skills does he meet the minimum requirement?" And for the people I don't know, right, I'm gonna put, I don't actually know them. They reached out to me on LinkedIn, and then actually, what turns out at my company is that they just canned the referral. It doesn't mean anything. And so I think that's why I have a hard time answering this question. But if you do know people, like that's great because like I've had friends reach out to me, and it's really easy to vouch for them and get them the job. And so like I guess on one hand I don't know how to reach out without being like kind of weird, but in another sense, like in my mind, it doesn't really. Sometimes it doesn't help because they'll kind of filter out based off who actually knows the person versus like are you just using.
So I think one strategy in that case, not really a strategy, get to know people instead of just when the job application opens up, reach out, instead of like reaching out to them that way. Make sure you like connect with people ahead of time. So, the job opens up that you want, you're good.
Yeah, like I think one way I've seen it work amongst people I've known is when they reach out not necessarily to get the referral, but they reach out because they're just interested. And you have a pleasant chat with them. And then at the end or afterwards, maybe you ask for the referral. Like I would be much more open to give you a referral after I've had that coffee chat with you, knowing that you're not just using me to get the referral, but you're actually interested in like what I'm doing. So I've seen that work amongst my network.
Thank you. So yeah, we'll move on to our next question. So generally, what are kind of like if you go back into college, right? What kind of skills or activities would you do? I guess to be able to market yourself better.
Play more basketball. No, I'm just kidding. Out today. Shoot. I'm serious, okay. So I think for me, I would there's a couple things I would do. I think as I look back in college, to be totally honest, a lot of what I've learned wasn't necessarily all that useful in class. Not that college is bad, it's good. And what you learn is good. But I think for me, I think I would have been a little bit more choosy on my internships. And particularly finding internships that would give me that practical experience, because that's what you're looking for, right? And I think in college, I had the mindset of let me do as much as possible, and you get a lot of like breadth. But what I found, and maybe in retrospect, what I would have done is have certain like depth, like pick a project and just like work at it, right, and build it like end to end. I think that would have done a lot more for me than starting like 10 different projects, but never actually finishing any of them. So those are some things that I would do. I don't know if I would join any other clubs or anything like that. And I turned out fine. I have a good job that I like. So that would be like one thing. In terms of like, I would also learn actually a lot of softer skills, to be totally honest. Things like critical thinking, ability to metabolize stress under high pressure well in a healthy way, manage expectations. I find that in my job, even though I'm in a technical role, like I personally feel like 70% of it is just how to work with people, right? And if you can work with people, like life becomes so much easier. And people also not like you. So the coding is like, the coding is coding. But yeah, some of these softer skills, maybe I would have got that. Yeah, maybe I should have worked a little bit more at that. That really bit me in the butt the first couple of years.
I'll give a slightly different angle. I think for me, I had a hard time getting into internships actually. The first internship, year one, just did not find it. Year two going around, the only reason why I got it was because I was in a club that was working with Ford Motor. We were trying to go and build this thing called a Hyperloop. Basically, how do we make a train go 750 miles an hour? That's kind of fun. But what ended up happening was, since we were working with Ford already, some of the guys at Ford were like, hey, we like working with you. Would you like to have an internship over the summer? I was interested, so I still had to go through the interview process, but they gave me a referral, and when I passed through the process, I got on one of their teams. So one thing I actually really like about this club, I was talking with Rafi, is that there's actually projects where you guys can work with different companies. I think that in that respect, clubs can be really useful because you can actually go and get to know different industry professionals. It can be one of those ways where you could get a referral, or they might even offer it to you. And with Johnson's point, I think there were a lot of other things I did that spent a lot of time that in retrospect were not that productive. Like to a certain extent, even things like grinding leak code past the point of where it's not actually that useful. So clubs are a good way to get industry professionals that know you. There are some other things that you can ask me about later where you can spend a lot of time at. Probably be better spent with your friends or playing ball or something else.
Yeah, I think echoing Johnson's point, what did not help was staying past 2 a.m. trying to figure out my code and improving on that technical skill. I see it in the new hires now that I've worked with for the past year or so, people who have worked really hard, stay past 5 p.m. to finish their job, and yet what they fail to do, what their weak spot is their soft skills, their inability to ask the right questions, their inability to communicate their thoughts and what they're thinking about, and their inability to prioritize. And those are the very things that stop her from progressing to like the next stage in her career. And it's not because she's not working hard enough or because she lacks the technical skills. So going to the soft skill part.
So, follow-up question for our panelists. What is a skill you wish you had learned earlier? More specifically, like, is it like a skill that you really need as much, but kind of rely on?
I think for me, the skill would be the ability to learn. And what I mean by that is, I guess in my role, I'm asked to lead team technically, but the reality is that like you're not going to know every project. You're not going to know like you're not going to be a master of a lot of things, and so a lot of times, for me personally, I just need to be able to quickly learn like what's going on, what are the key questions being asked, be able to synthesize and understand key concepts, and then kind of move from there. And so like I find that very useful. Even in my early career, like I found that the people who excelled fastest were the people who were just rather curious and to really understand what was going on, understand the business, understanding whatever. And then also the ability then to be able to communicate that with people or, make those connections into like, oh, so therefore this means, or this has how it translates to a business value. And so that'd be one skill. Another skill that, I should go and tag on is just take feedback. Man, there's like so much wisdom out there. And I found people's careers just get stunted when they're unable to take feedback. And the reality is everyone has weak spots. And so feedback is gold, especially in this industry where like you get these merge requests or pull requests. There's always better ways to do it, especially when you enter the working world. So those are two things.
I think not quite a skill, but a really big booster is having a good mentor. For me, when I came into Google, I was really fortunate. I had a mentor. It was a senior engineer on my team who was my host. I was a new grad rotational. And so that means I wasn't a full-time engineer yet. I was being hosted by another full-time engineer as I learned the ropes. And the guy happened to be someone that had been at Google since 2006, who was like employee 10,000, whose whole shtick was that he liked doing new things. And every 2 years, once the problem was solved enough that a team could bring it to the finish line, moved on and tried some new problem. So for me, I was really fortunate in that he wanted to start a new problem right when I was with him. He brought me along for the ride, and we went from 0 lines of code and no one else on the team to where we are today. And so along the way, learned a lot of different skills from being with him. And I think it applies to a lot more than just work, but that was just one example where I found having a mentor is really like having like a rocket attached to your trajectory. You're going to go in the right direction. go a lot faster.
I think one skill that I wish I learned earlier in my career was kind of going back to what I was saying earlier about priorities. Being able to see what is important and what is not. It actually just saves you so much time to not be a pushover and to just take everything and say yes to everything, but to see actually what's important for your career and what's important for the business. And yeah, I think that just saves you a lot of time and bandwidth so that you can actually focus on doing a good job on the right thing. Not be in a position where you have 5 different people requesting different things from you and you're not able to do a good job on any of them. And then you end up in a situation where you're in trouble because you didn't get anything done. Yeah. Seeing what's actually important and saying no.
Thank you. So that's kind of wraps up our panel section. So first, I want to give a round of applause for our panel. So for this next segment, I believe the panelists will be branching off to different parts of the room.
Yeah, if we could go to the next step slide, the next slide. So we're going to stick around here for around 20 minutes. We're going to go to different parts of the room, so you'll be able to find us there, ask any specific questions that you have for your own situation. Then in terms of the next steps, what I think might be helpful for you too is we have our Accent Mentorship Program. It's a 3-week mentorship with an industry professional that's structured around a specific track: resume, interview prep, and exploring career paths. Yeah, I think we can go to, we'll keep the slide up for like 5 more seconds, see people going through it. Then we can go back to the end of the slide, and then Nancy, me, and Johnson will fan out, and you guys can ask us questions there.
Yeah, by the way, regarding the pizza, I know a lot of you guys showed up for the food. We'll be doing that the last 10, 15 minutes. So as you guys are kind of walk around the room, you guys can also head out. And no food in here, by the way. All food must be consumed